In a world where everyone awakens a power, our protagonist gained the nation's only S-rank class, only to be pinned down by his own parents and have his essence drained. His bloodline was forcibly transferred to his sister, Chloe, who was always so good at playing the victim. Naturally, the entire school began mocking him as being lower than a dog. Even the school beauty, Sarah, who had promised to team up with him, turned around overnight to worship at Chloe's feet. To be honest, loyalty is a rare commodity these days. In this era of class awakening, losing his bloodline forced him to become a lowly Earth-tier warlock, while Chloe used his stolen S-rank Titan power to become a rising star. She became the genius everyone adored, while he was heartlessly kicked out of the family. And yet, alone in the dark, he nearly burst out laughing like a madman. You see, the moment his bloodline was stripped away, he unexpectedly activated the ultimate demon system. Who would ever want a mere S-rank tank class anyway? He immediately changed his class to the world's only SS-rank divine profession, the Holy Sovereign. Not only could he control the terrifying power of the 8 ancient demons, but he could even craft Emperor-level artifacts with a mere thought, which, as it turns out, was far more useful than anything his family had stolen. We find him now in a lethal forbidden zone, watching a level 35 giant slime boss relentlessly stomp on his genius sister, Chloe. A bit of poetic justice, perhaps. With one hand in his pocket and the other glowing with the light of the 12 talismans, he simply smirked and snapped his fingers. It was a small gesture, really. Deep down, he mocked them all, knowing they didn't understand what it meant to truly have everything. We return to the moment of his awakening at high school number 6. A brilliant golden light had just pierced through the gymnasium roof, signaling the arrival of the S-rank hidden class, the Titan. It was a sight to behold. The cheers of the students and teachers were still building in their throats, not yet having the chance to fully erupt into the air. But in the next second, a terrifying weight of earth element magic slammed down without warning, ruthlessly striking Marcus right in the back. With a heavy thud, Marcus's knees crashed into the hard stone floor. The impact was so great that his internal organs felt as though they were being turned inside out. Blood trickled uncontrollably from the corner of his mouth, dripping onto the cold, awakening stone. He struggled to lift his head, his vision blurred by the golden glow. Through the gaps in his fingers, he stared intensely at the person who had just struck him down, his own biological father. A warm family reunion, this was not. He had endured 3 years of neglect in this cold household, studying day and night, and training his body to the limit just for this single moment. He had hoped today would change his fate, and he had succeeded. An S-rank class was a rarity that only appeared a few times a year in the entire country. He was a genius that any faction would treat like royalty. So why was he met with this cold violence instead of a father's pride? It was a question with a dark answer. The suppression was ruthless and lethal. "Brother, please don't blame father, it's all my fault," a voice sobbed with extreme grievance. Marcus's younger brother, Leo, stood below the stage with red-rimmed eyes, cradled like a precious treasure by their mother, Sarah. In Leo's pale hand, he clutched 2 premium pills emitting a dense medicinal fragrance, treasures the family had spent a fortune to acquire. These were the talent and essence pills, obtained through the grandfather's last connections. "Mom, I only wanted to see the S-rank class up close. It's the metal attribute I've always dreamed of, but I never meant to steal it. Marcus already dislikes me. Now he'll surely hate me." The act was so transparent it was nauseating, yet it seemed to work perfectly on their parents. The pure hypocrisy made Marcus want to gag, but his mother's next words were what truly chilled him to the bone. Without a hint of hesitation, she turned to Marcus with a cold, commanding tone, as if she were granting him a favor. "Marcus, your brother has always been weak. Since this S-rank class is metal-based, it fits his pills perfectly. As his older brother, just give it to him. What's the problem? We're all family, after all. It stays in the family regardless of who awakens it. Give it to him." Marcus laughed in pure fury. The rage boiling within his chest was becoming impossible to contain. To be honest, he had reached his limit. That fire of resentment had been smoldering for years, and now it was finally ready to erupt. Had he not given enough? Family resources, cultivation pills, even his rightful room as the eldest son, he had surrendered them all. And now, they wanted to take away his very means of survival. With bloodshot eyes, Marcus stared at his parents like a cornered wolf. "Shut up," his father, David, barked. The earth magic crushing Marcus suddenly intensified, causing the very air to warp under the pressure. "You understand nothing. Leo is about to marry into the powerful Miller family, a top-tier financial conglomerate. They demand absolute potential. With this S-rank class, Leo can secure his footing with the Millers and gain access to their vast resources and power. Then, our family will become the #1 clan in the city. Your class, your entire being, your very life, they all belong to this family. Sacrificing yourself for our future is simply your duty." It was a twisted logic, a blatant exchange of flesh for profit. In their eyes, the eldest son was nothing more than a piece of meat to be sacrificed for the younger brother's benefit. He refused to be a mere stepping stone for his brother. This was his future, and without his consent, no one would touch it. Marcus fought with everything he had. We see him struggling to break free from that suffocating suppression, his trembling fingers reaching inch by inch toward the golden light floating above the awakening stone. Even as his fingernails cracked and his bones groaned under the unbearable weight, he didn't stop. "You've truly lost your mind," David hissed, seeing his son's defiance. A flash of cruelty crossed David's eyes. The terrifying pressure of a level 40 warrior was unleashed without reserve, slamming down like a collapsing mountain. A sickening crack echoed through the silent gymnasium, a sound that would make anyone's skin crawl. Marcus's right arm was snapped by the sheer force. His limb was bent at a grotesque, unnatural angle. The agonizing pain felt like being flayed alive, turning his vision black as cold sweat instantly soaked his shirt. In those few seconds while Marcus was incapacitated, Leo stepped onto the awakening stage with a calm, deliberate pace. To be honest, the transformation was jarring. Leo swallowed the essence pill in one gulp. As he passed his broken brother, those eyes that had been filled with tears moments ago changed completely. They were now filled with an undisguised mockery, the cold look of a victor savoring his prize. It was pure arrogance. And then, the golden light began to move. Like a shark catching the scent of blood, the light cheered and surged forward, flowing frantically through Leo's arm and into his body. The golden glow was blinding. Marcus watched as the light that once belonged to him abandoned him entirely, merging into Leo's form. Strangely enough, the madness and fury in Marcus's eyes began to fade. In its place came something far more terrifying, a heart-stopping, deathly silence. The bonds of blood and family, supposedly so sacred, had become a cruel joke in the face of such sickening favoritism and greed. This world, he realized, was a place that devoured the weak, where even the most basic human affection had rotted into something foul. Just as he closed his eyes to embrace the abyss of a broken life, a sharp chime rang out. The system had detected a soul pushed to the brink of betrayal. His inner resentment and rage had reached the threshold, creating a powerful resonance. The demon system was officially activating. Binding was successful, with a soul compatibility of 100%. A beginner's gift pack was issued. Congratulations to the host on his new class. He had awakened the hidden, one-of-a-kind SSR rank. He was now the Holy Sovereign, and this was where our story truly begins. He was now treated as less than the most ordinary laborer. We hear the whispers of the crowd rising like a tide, filled with pity and mockery. David let out a cold snort of disdain. He looked down from his height at Marcus, who sat collapsed on the ground, looking like a withered ghost. To David, his son was now just a bag of trash that had lost its value. "Don't blame me," he said. "The family's interests come before everything." He told Marcus that since he no longer had a class, he should stay in the backyard as a commoner. If he behaved, the family would still feed him. They promised he would never go hungry. Marcus let out a low, hollow laugh, a sound filled with a chilling sense of desolation and despair. He endured the tearing agony radiating from his broken arm. Swaying unsteadily, he managed to stand up with an incredibly firm resolve. He didn't spare a single glance at Leo, who was currently basking in the glorious golden light of his stolen future. Nor did he acknowledge his parents, who watched him with the haughty expressions of people tossing scraps to a beggar. He wiped the blood from his lip. His dark eyes were like stagnant water, devoid of any remaining longing for family. From the moment David broke his arm for Leo's sake, things changed. Marcus realized he was no longer a member of this family. His voice wasn't loud, yet it possessed a soul-piercing power that echoed through the gym. He warned Leo to remember this day and prayed he wouldn't regret it. The silence in the room was absolute as his words took hold. From this moment on, Marcus declared his ties with the family severed. He vowed they would never meet again in this lifetime. David was furious, his body trembling with rage as he pointed a finger at Marcus. He demanded to know how his son dared to speak such nonsense. He shouted that without the family's protection, a crippled man wouldn't survive 3 days. Marcus didn't even blink, completely ignoring the outburst. Instead, he turned toward the school principal, Jacob, who had hurried onto the stage with a face full of regret and heartache. Marcus stood as straight as a bloodstained spear that would rather break than bend. He calmly requested to undergo the final basic class awakening. Jacob let out a heavy sigh, his eyes brimming with pity. He explained that among the standard backup classes, only the lowest rank remained. The Earth Tier Mystic was a class that struggled even with self-defense. He asked if Marcus truly wanted to proceed. Yes, Marcus replied instantly. There was no hesitation. To him, the Earth Tier Mystic was merely a perfect disguise to hide his true power from prying eyes. A faint, almost negligible pale light began to flicker around him. And so, under that dim glow, Marcus accepted his supposed fate. As the light flared, Marcus completed his public class awakening. Under the pitying and mocking gazes of the crowd, who saw him as little more than a clown, no one knew the world-shaking transformation occurring deep within the ocean of his soul. 8 demonic shadows, radiating an ancient and desolate aura capable of destroying heaven and earth, stood like 8 insurmountable pillars of godhood. These terrifying entities were now bowing their heads in deep respect toward Marcus's very soul. The weight of mountains, the sharpness of wind, and the fury of fire, 8 extreme elemental powers began to frantically reshape his limbs and veins. The awakening of the demon lord was complete. The fire demon, sensing the host's deep-seated rage, felt a dark satisfaction and proactively granted him an S-rank skill, Blazing Fireball. He felt the terrifying, scorching magic power surging like a bursting dam through his previously withered meridians. It was a sensation of pure, unadulterated strength. Marcus didn't even look back. Dragging his broken arm, he took steady, cold steps away from the scene, his resolve harder than any stone. Amidst a deathly silence, he strode out of the gymnasium doors. Dazzling sunlight pierced through the clouds, bathing his thin but unyielding silhouette in gold. To the Miller family, he was nothing now. They truly believed that by stealing a mere S-rank class, they had secured their ultimate victory. But they were wrong. They had personally unleashed an eternal demon, and for Marcus, the hour of the hunt had only just begun. As he walked down the campus path, his right arm hung limply at his side. Yet, under the subtle influence of the Demon Lord class, the agonizing pain began to give way to a numbing sensation of rapid healing. His consciousness was now fully immersed in the deep, dark system interface within his mind. We see his stats: host, Marcus; class, Demon Lord; rank, SSR, the only one of its kind; level 1. His experience sat at 0, but his attributes were staggering. Strength, 25, a perfect initial score, with agility at 20 and spirit at a massive 45. His constitution was 30. He possessed the power of demons, with the fire demon's unlock progress already granting him that S-rank Blazing Fireball. He also held the hand of the demon passive. Demon points were currently at 0, obtainable by slaying enemies or completing demonic contracts. Marcus was stunned. These initial attributes were, to be honest, completely absurd. A normal person's total attributes after awakening usually hover around 30 in total. His spirit alone was 45, and his total exceeded 100. This wasn't an Earth-tier mystic. This was a demon god wearing a human mask. Marcus, stop right there. An angry, hurried shout came from behind him. Marcus paused slightly, his expression remaining entirely unreadable. Turning his head, he saw his homeroom teacher, Mr. Thompson, rushing toward him. Now, Mr. Thompson had always treated Marcus with a certain level of kindness. The teacher had always looked out for him, and now his face was flushed with a mix of heartbreak and anxiety. Marcus, you fool, Mr. Thompson panted, gasping for breath. He stared at Marcus's twisted, broken arm in horror. How could you cut ties with your family in public like that? You've lost your S-rank class and are left with a mere Earth-tier mystic base. Mr. Thompson continued. Without the Miller family's resources and medical care, that arm is as good as dead. Listen to me. Go back and apologize. Your father might be harsh, but surely he won't let his own son become a permanent cripple. Looking at the one person who truly cared for his well-being, the icy chill in Marcus's eyes softened slightly. Yet, his resolve remained unshaken. Mr. Thompson, every meal at the Miller house is paid for with one's own bones. This broken arm is simply my way of paying them back for the debt of raising me. From now on, I only live for myself. The teacher looked at him in disbelief. Child, how can you be so stubborn? Mr. Thompson wanted to argue further, but he was suddenly silenced by a strange, majestic aura radiating from Marcus. It was so commanding that the words died in his throat. Marcus asked softly, Sir, which way to the dungeon hall? The teacher's eyes widened. You're going to a dungeon now? You've lost your mind. He continued, You're only level 1, a mere mystic, and your arm is broken. Marcus simply replied with 3 words, I won't die. Without another word, he headed for the school gates. Meanwhile, back at the Miller residence, Leo was standing on the awakening platform, feeling the surging power of the great mountain within his veins. It was a metallic defensive power as heavy and unyielding as the earth itself. His father, Jacob, and his mother, Sarah, watched him with faces full of pride. However, a flicker of malice crossed Leo's eyes. Father, Marcus left with such determination. What if he actually seeks help from the Sterling or Sullivan families? Leo worried he might expose how they stole his class. Jacob let out a cold snort, his gaze turning predatory. He's a crippled, Earth-tier mystic. Who would dare offend the Miller family for his sake? If he wants to rot, let him. But just in case, I'll have him watched. If he truly dares to speak out. The Millers don't support useless trash, nor do we keep ungrateful dogs. We move now to the Jiangnan City Dungeon Hall, a place that is perpetually crowded and chaotic. Countless awakened individuals were gathered here, forming teams and preparing for the dangers ahead. It was a sea of ambition and desperation. Suddenly, whispers broke out. Isn't that the genius from high school number 6? I heard he awakened an S-rank class. Another voice scoffed. Your news is old, buddy. The gossip spread quickly. His father stripped him of his S-rank and gave it to his brother. Now he's just a crippled Earth-tier mystic. What's a loser like him doing here? The mockery washed over Marcus like a tide, but he acted as if he were completely deaf to it. He walked straight to the mission board, his eyes scanning the list. His gaze locked onto a neglected level 1 dungeon in the corner, the Crying Grotto. It was a place usually recommended for a full party of levels 5 to 8. The dungeon was crawling with goblins and corroders, and its first clear reward remained unclaimed. I'm entering the Crying Grotto, Marcus told the clerk. He handed over his permit, leaving the staff member stunned. The clerk looked at him with a flash of pity. Student, even though this is a level 1 dungeon, The environment is oppressive and the monsters are dense. Many level 10 players won't even solo it. In your condition, Marcus simply swiped his card. He wasn't in the mood for small talk. After confirming his registration, Marcus walked toward the teleportation array. Just as he was about to step inside, a system notification chimed. The familiar mechanical voice echoed in his mind once again. The Windwalker skill had significantly boosted his speed and evasion. A cruel smile played on Marcus's lips. 10 minutes, he decided, was far too long. With a flash of white light, Marcus vanished from the hall. Shortly after his departure, two men in black suits, bearing the Miller family crest, appeared. They exchanged a mocking glance. The young master was right, one whispered. This trash actually thinks he can gamble his life in a dungeon. Let's follow him in, find a quiet corner, and give him the permanent relief he deserves. We move now inside the dungeon, into a dark and damp cavern. The air was thick with moisture, but the atmosphere was about to change. Deep within the cave, the environment felt heavy and suffocating. Suddenly, the surrounding rocks began to glow and melt. This was the power of his S-rank skill, the Flame Burst Fireball. To be honest, it was overkill. A dozen large, green-skinned goblins shrieked as they rushed out from the shadows, their rusted blades gleaming with a cold, murderous light. Marcus didn't even blink. He flicked his left hand, and a dark red fireball whistled through the air with a deafening roar. It was a terrifying sight. Upon contact, it didn't just explode. It transformed into a fan-shaped wave of searing heat that swept across the cavern floor. Notifications flooded in. Level 4 Goblin Slain, 10 experience points. Level 5 Goblin Slain, 12 experience points. He was just getting started. A level 7 Goblin Warrior fell next, granting 25 points. With a single strike, every monster within 10 meters was silenced forever. They didn't even have time to scream before being vaporized into black ash. Marcus walked on, stepping over the molten rock with cold, focused eyes. He looked toward the depths of the cave, intent on gathering his first batch of demon points. Deep inside the grotto, the air became truly stifling. The echoes of dying shrieks rang through the narrow tunnels. Marcus remained expressionless, walking calmly over the charred remains of his enemies. Marcus casually flicked his left hand, sending out streams of fire that accurately claimed the lives of every goblin in his path. This wasn't a fight. It was a one-sided massacre. We see that while a typical sorcerer needs to hide and predict their enemies' movements to land a hit, Marcus, empowered by his SS rank Holy Lord class, could cast spells instantly. And as if that weren't enough, his magic possessed a built-in homing effect. The power of the fire demon was absolute. The goblin's tough leather armor was as thin as scrap paper. Against his dark red flames, a notification chimed. He had reached level 3, gaining 5 points to all attributes and 10 free attribute points. Without a moment's hesitation, Marcus poured every single point into Spirit. For a sorcerer, Spirit is the ultimate source of firepower. As the attributes surged through him, the pale complexion he had from his injury began to fade, replaced by a healthy, vibrant glow. His internal mana roared like a tidal wave. Just then, a heavy vibration echoed from the depths of the dungeon. Thump, thump. A massive creature nearly 3 meters tall, covered in pustules, stepped into view. A level 10 elite goblin centurion stood in Marcus's way. It gripped a massive spiked club, its dark red eyes filled with pure brutality. The centurion let out a deafening roar, rallying the remaining goblins to charge at Marcus once more. But to him, 1,000 ants are still just ants. Marcus gave a cold snort, clenching his left hand as the fireball in his palm turned from dark red to a blinding, brilliant orange. The moment the fireball left his hand, it split into dozens of tiny streams of fire, raining down like a meteor shower across the entire area. This was Marcus's expert control over his S-rank skill. Rather than wasting mana on a single overkill strike, he transformed it into a grid of death that covered the entire battlefield. To be honest, his tactical efficiency was becoming quite terrifying. The charging goblins were instantly pierced through. Before the goblin centurion could even swing its massive club, Marcus appeared before it like a ghost. It was a display of pure agility and mental focus that left the beast stunned. He pressed his left hand firmly against the centurion's abdomen. Boom! The accumulated power of the fire demon exploded instantly. The centurion's massive body folded like a sandbag, flying backward and slamming into the rock wall with a charred hole in its chest. The level 10 goblin centurion was slain, granting him 500 experience points. And so, the path forward was cleared. A notification chimed, 13 minutes and 15 seconds. His reward was the Wind Demon's Phantom Walk, with 5% of the progress unlocked. A cool, pale blue energy instantly washed over Marcus's legs. He felt as though his body had lost all weight, as if a single thought could turn him into a gale of wind. Who's back there? Get out! Marcus suddenly turned, his sharp gaze piercing the shadows. Near the entrance, 2 members of the Blue Wolf Assassination Squad, who had planned to ambush him in the chaos, were now pale with terror. The daggers they gripped so tightly were now trembling. They wondered if he was an Earth-rank sorcerer, having killed a level 10 elite boss in 10 seconds. Even their own captain didn't have that kind of power. One of the assassins, realizing things had gone south, turned to use a stealth skill to escape. Since you're here, you might as well stay and keep the goblins company, Marcus said as he pushed off the ground. Phantom Walk activated instantly. He covered the 10-meter gap as if he were teleporting, appearing behind the assassin in half a breath. His fire cloud palm erupted, and the flames swallowed the assassin's scream. Seeing this, the other man let out a desperate, final roar. He collapsed with a heavy thud. Marcus coldly searched their storage spaces, finding several tokens marked with the name Miller and a simple map detailing his own route. Arthur Miller, you couldn't even wait this long? Marcus crushed the tokens, his eyes turning cold. If Arthur was so eager to send the Miller family to their graves, Marcus decided he would simply speed up the process. He grabbed the silver chest. Without looking back, he stepped into the teleportation array. Outside the dungeon, the once noisy hall was now deathly silent. Everyone, including the staff member who had mocked Marcus earlier, stood with their mouths agape, staring at the golden announcement on the screen. It congratulated an anonymous player for clearing the level 1 dungeon in 3 minutes and 15 seconds, shattering the historical record. The crowd was baffled. Just running through that map usually takes 5 minutes. They wondered if he had flown through it. To be honest, it was a fair question. Some wondered if this anonymous could be the injured Marcus they saw earlier. Just then, the teleportation array flashed with light. Marcus's tall, upright figure appeared at the exit. He was still wearing his tattered school uniform, looking perfectly calm despite the chaos he'd caused. He was still draped in that tattered school uniform, his broken right arm bound simply with torn strips of cloth as he walked calmly through the stunned crowd. A middle-aged man in a sharp suit, named Arthur, stepped forward quickly, a prominent crest of the Song conglomerate pinned to his chest. He introduced himself as the Song family butler, explaining that his young mistress, Sophie Song, wished to invite Marcus for a talk. Marcus paused, a playful smile touching the corners of his mouth as he told Sophie to lead the way, knowing the real game in the city was only just beginning. We moved to the Zenith restaurant in the city center, where the entire floor had been cleared out for their meeting. Outside the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, the city was shrouded in mist, while Marcus sat on a leather sofa, looking quite out of place in such luxury. His broken arm, nourished by the Holy Lord's magic, was still wrapped in cloth, but the swelling had subsided and his exhaustion had vanished. Across from him sat a young woman with a cold, elegant aura, dressed in a form-fitting black combat suit. She tapped the table where a freshly printed battle report lay between them, showing the goblin centurion killed in a single strike. She noted that his public records listed him as a useless Earth-rank sorcerer who had been stripped of his S-rank talent by the Miller family. Marcus casually picked up a spirit fruit from the table and took a bite, asking calmly if she had invited him just to relive his painful past. Sophie leaned forward, her eyes as sharp as arrows, remarking that she appreciated how quickly a smart man gets to the point. She claimed that while the Miller couple might be blind, she was not, and she knew he possessed something far more terrifying than his old talent. She invited Marcus to join the Song family, promising that they would help him reclaim everything the Millers owed him. Marcus let out a soft laugh and set down the fruit, asking exactly how she planned to do that, by killing the patriarch or crippling his son. Sophie paused slightly, noting that while the Millers weren't as powerful as her family, they were still deeply rooted local powers. She offered him top-tier medical resources to heal his arm, an S-rank staff, and even a guaranteed spot at the nation's highest academy. This was a heavy bait, offered on the condition that he represent the Song family in next week's Academy Championship to win a Secret Realm slot. Marcus looked up, a trace of coldness flashing in his eyes as he simply refused the offer. Sophie's expression instantly turned cold, warning Marcus that his situation was dire, as the Millers had already dispatched the Blue Wolf squad after him. Sophie warned him that without a great family's backing, he wouldn't even afford medicine, but Marcus simply stood up, refusing to be a mere servant. A long-suppressed demonic aura began to leak out, making Sophie's heart skip a beat as she realized she wasn't facing a boy, but an ancient, predatory entity. "We cooperate," Marcus said, extending his left hand, offering to win the slot while she provided the necessary intelligence and entry tickets. He intended to keep the rewards, and he demanded that the Song family collect every ancient artifact they could find that carried a demonic aura. The idea of a partnership seemed like a joke to Sophie at first. After all, who was he to negotiate with her? Which, naturally, made her next move quite surprising. Almost as if possessed, she reached out and shook his hand, sealing the deal before sharing her first piece of intel. The Millers had reserved the Moonshadow Garden. They were clearing the path for Julian Miller to reach level 10, so he could forcibly fuse with Marcus's stolen S-rank professional origin. A cruel smile played on Marcus's lips as he noted that the Moonshadow Garden sounded like a perfectly lovely place to bury someone. Half an hour later, as Marcus left the restaurant, his system interface flickered to life, triggering a new demonic quest, the Moon Demon's Sudden Rage. It was a high-stakes mission, one that promised power far beyond his current imagination. With rewards like Gravity Control and Shadow Stealer on the line, he didn't head straight to the dungeon, but instead made a tactical detour. Using a generous deposit from Sophie, he slipped into a black market apothecary and demanded 10 portions of blood-wasting powder. The shopkeeper warned him that the concoction was meant to force one's potential at the cost of their lifespan. But Marcus simply told him he talked too much. He tossed a stack of gold coins onto the counter, knowing that while the powder was poison to others, for him, it was the key to shattering his mana limits. This was the catalyst he needed to trigger the next stage of his evolution, the power of the fire demon, a force that had been slumbering within his soul. It was the Holy Lord's origin spark, a flame that refused to be extinguished by any mortal means. The system chimed, confirming that his demonic points had been successfully converted, instantly boosting his level to 8. He unlocked the fire demon's passive ability, ensuring that any fire damage he dealt would now carry an inextinguishable burning effect. Marcus slowly opened his eyes as a pale green hurricane and dark red flames intertwined in his left hand, creating a truly terrifying aura. A heart-stopping aura of destruction radiated from him as Marcus thought of Julian, wondering if the boy could actually stomach what he had stolen. Meanwhile, at the Miller villa, inside the house, Julian was soaking in a tub of expensive holy medicine, his body glowing with golden light as his powers surged toward level 10. "Mom, Dad," he said, "I can feel myself getting stronger. Is this truly the power of an S-rank class?" Julian looked fanatical, while his father, Jacob, patted his shoulder with immense pride. "This is only the beginning. Tomorrow at Moonshadow Garden, Sophie will accompany you, and you'll become the most brilliant genius in the city." As for that runaway trash Marcus, Jacob assumed he was already dead in some stinking sewer. His mother, Sarah, peeled a golden spirit fruit with an air of complete indifference. They had no idea, of course, that the boy they considered a corpse was currently standing under the moonlight, coldly staring toward the Miller estate. That night, the moon over the city turned a deep, bloody red. The next morning, at the entrance of the Moonshadow Plains dungeon, the area had been completely cordoned off by the private soldiers of the Miller and Song families. Guards in green uniforms blocked the path of ordinary players, leaving only a red-carpeted lane open. Julian arrived wearing a set of shimmering, fluorescent heavy armor, accompanied by Jacob and Sarah, chatting happily with a young lady. Her tone carried a hint of admiration, and Julian smiled modestly, though his eyes were filled with smugness. "It's all thanks to my parents' nurturing," he said. "The power of this S-rank soul is finally being used properly in my hands, unlike my brother, who would have just wasted it." Sarah snorted at the mention of Marcus, calling him a bad omen. "Today, Miss Sophie is personally helping you clear the dungeon. You must take the Moonshadow Wolf King's first kill to bring honor to our families." Just as they prepared to enter, a figure that wasn't particularly tall but radiated a piercing chill slowly emerged from the distant shadows of the trees. He carried an utterly ordinary longsword, his right hand wrapped in thick bandages and resting against his chest, while his left hand stayed in his pocket. He looked destitute, yet with every step he took, the noisy wind seemed to fall silent. "Marcus." Julian's smile froze on his face before turning into a look of heavy mockery. "You're actually not dead, and you dare to show your face here?" Jacob stepped forward, his level 40 pressure crashing down like a mountain toward Marcus as he barked, "Boy, who gave you permission to come here?" Marcus stood his ground, remaining motionless against the crushing pressure. His eyes were as deep as shadows as he stared directly at Jacob. The Moonshadow Plains is a public dungeon. Since when did it become the Miller's private backyard? Sophie looked on with pure contempt at the cripple with the broken hand. Sophie continued to eye Marcus with pure disdain. "You're just a cripple with a broken hand," she sneered, looking him up and down. "Julian is an S-rank powerhouse now. He is destined for the highest academy, while an Earth-rank ant like you isn't even fit to carry his shoes. Are you finished?" Marcus asked coldly. He expressionlessly cut off her mockery and pulled a purple gold token engraved with the word song from his pocket. Seeing this, the previously arrogant Jacob and his guards turned pale with shock. It was the Song family's purple gold command token, a symbol as sharp as a blade, representing the family head's supreme authority. "Luna Song actually gave this to you?" Jacob hissed in utter disbelief. "Do I have permission to enter now?" Marcus asked, stepping past the stunned crowd. As he brushed past Jacob, he paused and lowered his voice to a whisper. "Jacob, enjoy these last moments of glory in your life, because your career and your family's future ends here." To be honest, Jacob should have taken the warning more seriously. Once inside, Jacob whispered to his men to act quickly and make Marcus's death look like a monster attack. We then move into the Moonshadow Plains, where a blood-red moon hangs high in the sky and the howling of wolves echoes through the grass. Upon entering the dungeon, Marcus ignored the nearby wolves and ran straight toward the ruins of the central altar. Suddenly, a notification chimed. Lunar breath detected. Moon demon ability unlocked. Quest initiated. Objective: collect 100 moon wolf fangs to light the ancient altar. Activating his phantom wind walk, Marcus's figure turned into a blur of green smoke, vanishing instantly into the dense forest. A pack of level 5 Moonshadow wolves sensed the intruder and lunged from the shadows. Imagine the scene: a dozen predators closing in, yet Marcus didn't even look concerned. He didn't even use his high-tier skills. Instead, he simply swept his left hand forward, unleashing his fire cloud palm technique. Dark red flames lashed out like a whip, striking the wolves with brutal precision. Notifications flooded in. Moonshadow wolf killed, 80 experience gained. He continued his rhythmic slaughter, gaining experience points with every strike. In just 10 minutes, Marcus had left behind a trail of charred wolf carcasses. His leveling speed was terrifyingly efficient, his experience bar jumping wildly until a chime rang out. Level up. Current. Level 9. Meanwhile, the elite team led by Julian and Sophie also entered the plains. They were well equipped and escorted by family experts, allowing them to advance quickly. Julian, look, Sophie said, pointing at the roadside. Why are these monsters all charred? She looked at the burnt remains in confusion. Is there another high-level mage clearing the area? Julian frowned, a sense of unease rising in his heart. A wave of unease washed over him. Julian couldn't shake the feeling that Marcus, despite his broken hand, was watching him from the shadows like a predator. No matter who is here, no one steals from me, Julian declared, drawing his heavy sword as golden magical power erupted around him. He ordered a full-speed advance toward Wolf King Valley. However, Julian had no idea that every step he took was already part of Marcus's plan. Standing atop the altar, Marcus looked down at the approaching team. In his hand, a sphere of deep blue light began to coalesce and hum with power. Gravity is the most fascinating force in this world, Marcus whispered. He then slammed the glowing orb directly into the center of the ancient altar. Suddenly, the gravity across the entire plain spiraled out of control. From the direction of the valley, an earth-shaking roar echoed through the air. It was the level 15 Berserk Moonshadow Wolf King, thoroughly enraged, and it was charging directly toward the spot where Julian stood. In the heart of the plains, the shifting gravitational field made the very air feel thick and heavy. Julian's armor suddenly felt like lead. Because he was wearing full-plate armor, Julian was affected most severely. With every step, his boots sank 3 inches deep into the soil. Even his golden protective aura began to flicker and tremble. Beside him, Sophie turned pale as the gem on her staff pulsed erratically. Julian, this environment is too strange. Should we retreat? She asked. Retreat? That word isn't in my dictionary, Julian replied, gritting his teeth. He had just stolen Marcus's S-rank destiny and was at the height of his arrogance. To be honest, his pride was far larger than his common sense. If he fled a level 1 dungeon without clearing it, he would lose all face. But before he could act, a piercing howl shattered the silence of the valley. We see a massive wolf, the size of an elephant, with silver fur and blood-red eyes. It was galloping across the moonlight with terrifying fury. Every leap shattered the ground beneath its paws, leaving a trail of silver afterimages. This was the level 15 boss, the Moonshadow Wolf King. It's the king. Why is it leaving the valley? The guards cried out in terror, frantically raising their shields to form a wall in front of Julian. Don't panic. This is the perfect chance to test my strength, Julian shouted, suppressing his fear as he prepared his Mount Tai strike technique. He raised his heavy sword, and golden light exploded outward. He was desperate to show off in front of Sophie, regardless of the danger. What he didn't realize was that the Wolf King wasn't wandering randomly. It was being precisely guided by Marcus, using his moon demon gravity control. Marcus had calculated the trajectory with lethal precision. And even worse for Julian, Marcus had just finished preparing a second trap. The lingering scent of fire from several charred wolf corpses had already permeated the entire area. In the eyes of the Wolf King, these figures in glowing armor were the murderers who had slaughtered his kin. Meanwhile, on a cliff 100 meters away, Marcus watched the scene below with cold indifference. With a flick of his left hand, 3 dark red sparks fell silently into the dry grass. A series of thunderous explosions erupted behind Julian's team, instantly cutting off their retreat and shattering the Wolf King's final shred of sanity. The beast's massive body became a silver comet, slamming violently into Julian's heavy sword. Julian felt an overwhelming, mountain-toppling force crash into him. The S-rank defensive skills he was so proud of seemed utterly pathetic in the face of the Wolf King's raw fury and level advantage. With a pathetic scream, he was sent flying like a broken kite. His golden helmet cracked in midair, splitting clean in two. Julian, Sophie screamed in terror. Protect the young master, the guards cried, falling into total chaos. The sounds of fire, sword energy, and wolf claws tearing through flesh intertwined. In the midst of this carnage, Marcus finally moved. Using his phantom wind walk, he drifted like a faint breeze along the edge of the battlefield. Not a single guard noticed him, and even the frenzied Wolf King ignored the young man whose aura had merged perfectly with nature. His target was simple, Julian, who lay coughing up blood in a crater. Julian looked up weakly, his face pale with terror as he saw the figure descending upon him like a grim reaper. What are you doing? I'm your brother. Our parents won't let you get away with this. Marcus simply knelt down and gripped Julian's throat. Between his fingers, dark red flames capable of devouring souls flickered. When you stole my class and broke my arm, did you remember then that I was your brother? Julian felt the S-rank core within his body trembling, as if it had met its natural predator. A manipulative waste like you doesn't deserve to hold what belongs to me, Marcus said, his eyes devoid of any emotion. As his wind demon synchronization reached 8%, Julian's eyes bulged as the metallic magical power was forcibly ripped from his body. The despair of falling from the heights of power into an abyss made him let out a pig-like shriek. Stop, the nearby experts and Sophie finally realized what was happening and charged toward them. Marcus stood up slowly, tossing the limp, broken body of Julian onto the ground. He turned to face the oncoming crowd, a cold, sharp smile playing on his lips. Perfect timing. We see that Marcus is just a hair's breadth away from level 10. He spreads the fingers of his left hand, and the air around him is instantly drained of fire elements. A massive, dark red fireball several meters wide forms above his head. This is no ordinary flame. It is the demon-infused Great Flame Sword Saint's Wrath. Since you love Julian so much, you can all go to hell and keep him company, Marcus declares. The firelight instantly begins to swallow everything in sight. The dark red fireball descends like a falling meteor, crashing into the earth with a thunderous roar that echoes across the plains. To be honest, it's a terrifying sight. It explodes violently in the center of Sophie's team. The terrifying heat wave instantly turns the surrounding grass and trees into charred cinders within dozens of meters. The charging guards find their screams caught in their throats as they are flipped over by this brutal, demonic firepower. Sophie, meanwhile, falls back in total disarray. She sits on the ground, her expensive mage robes scorched black and her delicate face covered in soot. Her eyes are filled with a terror she has never known. This is impossible, she stammers. You're just an Earth-rank warlock. A skill of this power should require a Grand Magister of at least level 30. Marcus stands amidst the fire and smoke, his left hand slightly clenched as dark red sparks continue to dance upon his fingertips. He looks quite calm, all things considered. He walks toward the broken Julian, his leather boots making a bone-chilling crunch against the scorched earth. It is a slow, deliberate approach. Sophie, save me, Julian cries, reaching out a weak hand. The S-rank class core within him has been forcibly stripped away by Marcus's overwhelming power. His golden magic has turned dull and lifeless, and he seems to have aged several years in an instant. Save you. Marcus lets out a cold, mocking laugh. He slams his foot down on Julian's one remaining good arm, grinding it into the dirt. A sharp, agonizing scream rings out across the silent plain. When you stole my class, our mother said it was my duty as your brother, Marcus says, leaning down to stare into Julian's eyes with a gaze like a dark abyss. Now, I am simply taking back what belongs to me. We might call this a rightful return to the original owner. Marcus, stop, a team captain shouts. The level 20 warrior charges forward with a heavy shield, roaring that this is an open provocation against both the Sophie and Julian families. If you kill him, the captain's threat about the consequences in the city hangs in the air, unfinished and desperate. Marcus merely sneers. Once I've killed you all, who will be left to tell them it was me? Suddenly, his demonic synchronization surges with his rising bloodlust. A hidden passive skill, demonic pressure, is triggered. Anyone with a lower level or a weak will find their attributes slashed by 20%. A fair fight, this is not. In that moment, every guard present feels as though an invisible hand has gripped their heart, making it nearly impossible to draw a single breath. Breathing becomes an agonizing struggle as Marcus presses his left hand downward, triggering the demon gravity collapse. A low hum vibrates through the air as the guards prepare to strike. Sophie's team captain feels as though the weight of 1,000 storms has crashed onto his shoulders. His knees buckle, slamming into the dirt, and even his heavy shield begins to buckle. The metal groans under the crushing pressure. Wolf King, it's time for your meal, Marcus says calmly. The Moon Shadow Wolf King, already enraged by the surrounding inferno, lets out a bone-chilling roar, finally finding a target for its fury. It transforms into a streak of silver lightning, lunging at the captain, who is pinned down by gravity. The captain can only watch in horror, unable to move a muscle. Blood sprays across the scorched grass as the level 20 warrior faces the level 15 boss. To be honest, it isn't even a contest. With his attributes forcibly suppressed by Marcus, the warrior has no way to fight back. In an instant, the wolf's claws tear through his throat. Now, it is time for the main event. Marcus turns his gaze back to Julian. Brother, I was wrong. Take the class back. I don't want anything. Just please, don't kill me. Julian pleads, his voice cracking with terror. The boy is utterly broken, his courage failing him so completely that a foul-smelling puddle begins to form beneath him. It's a pathetic sight, really. Marcus looks down at him with a flash of pure, unadulterated disgust. To think someone like you was given an S-rank class, he mutters, extending his left hand toward Julian's chest. He focuses his demonic power, and with a sharp tug, a cluster of brilliant, golden light begins to emerge from Julian's heart. This is the core of the mountain-crushing power. This was the very essence the family had stolen at any cost, the supposed hope of their lineage. We see it being violently uprooted from its undeserving host. As the core is ripped away, Julian's body undergoes violent convulsions. His eyes roll back, and the vibrant life force that once filled him withers away in seconds. He collapses like a pile of dry kindling, his breath leaving him forever. A notification chimes. The system has successfully reclaimed the stolen power for its rightful master. The demon system begins its evolution, absorbing the mountain-crushing gold. Marcus can now choose to strengthen his demonic defense or convert it into 5,000 demon points. His level surges, reaching level 10. Feeling the raw power coursing through his veins once more, Marcus looks up at the trembling Sophie, who is watching from the sidelines. Marcus, you actually killed him, she stammers, her entire body shaking. She had never imagined that the quiet, discarded son of the family could be this ruthless. The boy everyone ignored at school has become a decisive executioner. Go back and tell the elders, Marcus says, his voice cold and hollow, as if echoing from the depths of hell. This was merely the interest on the debt. Everything the family owes me, I will take back, inch by agonizing inch. He intends to dismantle them completely. I will not stop until the family name is erased from this city. Now get out. His voice carries the terrifying weight of his saint-level class, a command that cannot be ignored. Sophie, no longer the composed noble lady, stumbles backward in terror. She and her few remaining guards scramble toward the dungeon exit, fleeing as fast as their legs can carry them. Marcus chooses not to hunt down Sophie, as he needs time to process the immense power he just reclaimed. He turns his gaze toward the beast. The Moon Shadow Wolf King stands before him, letting out a low, menacing growl as it prepares for a final, desperate confrontation. I used your claws to kill my enemies, and now it's time to send you on your way, Marcus says, activating his phantom wind and gravity control. He transforms into an elusive dark shadow, charging straight at the Wolf King. That night, the Moon Shadow Plains dungeon triggers another golden announcement. Congratulations to the anonymous player for successfully slaying the level 15 boss, the Moon Shadow Wolf King, and shattering the speed record. Outside the dungeon, the support teams for the two families watch in shock as a battered Sophie emerges with news that will change everything. The very air over the city seems to freeze as Sophie and her few remaining guards, scorched and dazed, stumble through the dungeon gates. Waiting outside are the family elders, Jacob and Arthur, who immediately rush forward to greet the survivors with expectant smiles. Sophie, why are you out so soon? Where's Julian? Arthur asks, his face beaming as he prepares the celebratory champagne. He wonders aloud if Julian leveled up so quickly that he simply one-shot the Wolf King. Sophie's legs give out, and she collapses onto the red carpet. Tears stream down her face as her voice trembles uncontrollably. Uncle Jacob, Julian, he's dead, she manages to choke out. Jacob's cigar falls to the ground, scattering sparks. Arthur's smile freezes on his face, his entire body going numb as if struck by lightning. What nonsense are you talking about? Jacob roars, grabbing a guard by the collar, his eyes turning blood red with a terrifying level 40 pressure. With elite guards and Sophie's team protecting him, he cannot believe Julian is gone. Did the Wolf King go berserk? He demands. No, it wasn't the Wolf King. The guard stammers, his eyes filled with a primal, lingering terror that tells us everything we need to know. It was Marcus, the son you cast out. He killed everyone, and he did it with a coldness that wasn't human. He even tore the S-rank core right out of Julian's chest in front of us. Arthur screams, his vision going black as he nearly faints. Stripping a class core is a fatal torture, and they cannot fathom how a supposed failure could kill a fully equipped warrior like Julian. Where is he? Where's that boy? Jacob bellows like a madman, his earth element magic erupting and shattering the stone tiles beneath his feet. I will kill him. I will burn him alive, he screams, while Sophie can only stare blankly, knowing the family's nightmare has only just begun. Pointing toward the dungeon entrance with a voice still choked by tears, she cries out that Marcus is still inside, hunting the Wolf King. Jacob prepares to storm the dungeon, but the lead elder of the Sophie family holds him back, urging him to stay calm since the announcement already confirmed the boss is dead. He explains that Marcus has likely used another exit, and since he holds the Song family's purple gold token, charging in now would cause a diplomatic nightmare. The Song family, Sophie's connections, Jacob mutters, grinding his teeth so hard his gums begin to bleed as the realization finally sinks in. He finally understands why his rebellious son was so arrogant. He had found a powerful backer. Immediately, Jacob orders the mobilization of the family's shadow guards. A $10 million, no, a $50 million bounty, Jacob says, his voice turning as cold and venomous as a viper. He wants Marcus's head, regardless of who brings it. He promises a massive reward for the boy's life. Meanwhile, we find Marcus sitting cross-legged in a quiet, secluded apartment in the city. Swirling lights of pale green and dark red circle his body as he holds the prize he tore from Julian's chest in the palm of his hand. The core of the Titan class, the very essence of the power Julian stole, emits its final glow as the system begins the conversion process. The system detects the high-tier metal attribute essence and begins converting it into demon points. The process is a success. He gains 8,000 points. The Fire Demon's unlock progress reaches 15%, granting him a new skill, Hell's Breath. The Wind Demon reaches 12%, unlocking the passive Wind Chime Leap, which boosts his movement speed by 30% during combat. As the energy pours into him, the bones in Marcus's broken right arm begin to crack and knit back together with unsettling speed. A moment later, he tears off the bandages to find his twisted arm perfectly healed, his skin shimmering with a jade-like luster. This is the ultimate physical reconstruction of the Holy Lord class. Marcus stands up and gives his right fist a light, experimental swing. A low, heavy sonic boom echoes through the room. It seems his power is returning even faster than he anticipated. He pushes open the window and looks toward the brightly lit Jacob family mansion, which is currently spiraling into chaos over the fall of their golden child. But for Marcus, this is merely the opening chapter of his revenge. Suddenly, a new main quest triggers, the Tower of Heaven challenge. He must enter the city's Tower of Heaven and reach the 4th floor within 3 days to seize the Seed of Protection. The reward is the 3rd demon, the Earth Demon, master of ultimate defense. Marcus narrows his eyes. The Earth element is exactly what the Jacob family prides itself on. The Jacob family has always taken immense pride in their so-called Titan class and its legendary strength. But compared to the Earth Demon, their power is nothing more than a child playing with mud. Jacob, you think Earth attribute defense is invincible, don't you? Well, Marcus plans to crush that pride in the very field they claim to master. He pulls on a black hood and vanishes into the thick night. His destination is the holy land for adventurers in the city, the Tower of Heaven. This massive structure, built entirely of obsidian, soars into the clouds, surrounded by a heavy mist of ancient laws. It is the heart of the city's power and the only path to higher realms. Inside, every floor is an independent dimension, teeming with monsters and filled with a spiritual energy that is impossible to find elsewhere. Marcus stands at the base of the tower, his face mostly hidden by his hood. A crowd of elite students from the top high schools has already gathered here. We hear the students whispering, pointing out a top-tier student named Ryan who has already cleared the 4th floor and reached level 12. Others mention that Sophie and the newly awakened Julian were supposed to come, but the Jacob family is currently dealing with a major crisis. Ignoring the gossip, Marcus walks calmly toward the registration desk. Without looking up, the clerk asks for his name, level, and class. Marcus, level 10, Warlock. As soon as he speaks, the surrounding crowd falls into a stunned, heavy silence. Marcus, the outcast of the Jacob family, a level 10 Warlock? People wonder if they heard correctly, considering he only awakened a few days ago. They suspect he's been leeching experience from a master. But as we know, you can't leech your way into the Tower of Heaven. It limits entry to solo challengers or teams of the same rank. The idea of a low-tier Warlock attempting to storm the tower seems like a joke to them. To be honest, they expect him to fail immediately. But Marcus doesn't care for their opinions. He steps through the portal and begins his challenge. The 1st floor is the Wilderness Realm, a vast, crimson wasteland where the very air is charged with violent, elemental energy. The moment Marcus lands, the soil beneath his feet heaves violently. With a roar, a rock-armored beast the size of a bull bursts from the ground. This is a level 11 elite monster with incredible defense, a literal nightmare for any ordinary Warlock. An Earth attribute monster, of all things. A hint of mockery flashes in Marcus's eyes. To use Earth against the Holy Lord is like trying to teach a fish how to swim. It's simply futile. He prepares to call upon the power of the Earth Demon, the true master of the ground beneath their feet. Marcus channels his power, and we see the very ground respond to his silent command. The earth instantly liquefies into a pool of quicksand before snapping shut like a massive stone hand, pinning the beast's limbs. With a calm flick of his wrist, Marcus unleashes a hellish breath, a torrent of dark red flames laced with toxic green smoke. The fire clings to the rock-armored beast, and in less than 3 seconds, its prized stone armor melts into glowing, white-hot lava. The creature is reduced to a pile of charcoal before it can even scream. He has gained 500 experience points for the kill. He picks up a shattered stone box, but his gaze remains cold. To be honest, this pace is far too slow for his liking. He isn't interested in a slow, cautious climb. He wants a total, crushing victory. He decides to stop holding back his true strength. Unleashing the fire demon's rage and the wind demon's swiftness, Marcus prepares to turn the next hour into a nightmare for the tower. While ordinary adventurers would tread carefully through these halls, Marcus treats the first 3 floors like a walk in the park. He transforms into a streak of crimson light, leaving a sea of fire and razor-sharp wind in his wake. The first floor falls in record time. 1 minute and 42 seconds for the first floor, 2 minutes and 15 seconds for the second. The third floor follows shortly after. Outside the tower, the massive golden leaderboard, which usually remains quite static, suddenly begins to flicker and jump with frantic energy. The crowd gasps as an anonymous challenger rockets from the bottom of the list straight into the top 10 rankings. Clearing 3 floors in under 10 minutes is unheard of. They wonder if some legendary master has returned on a secret alt account. Meanwhile, we find Marcus on the 5th floor, where level 15 flamehounds roam with a permanent state of group frenzy. As he enters, hundreds of blood-red eyes ignite in the darkness. Marcus simply smiles. This is exactly the challenge he wanted. He presses his right hand to the ground, the same hand that now glows with the stolen essence of the Titan's original power. He invokes a secret technique, 10,000 flaming swords. The ground within 100 meters shatters instantly under the pressure. Dark red lava erupts like a fountain, weaving together into an inescapable net of death that consumes every hound in sight. The experience points pour in as the hounds are incinerated. It seems our protagonist is just getting started. A flood of system notifications rings through Marcus's mind as he gains 300 experience points for every flamehound slain. His level surges to 12, and he gains 2,000 demon points. He is just about to head for the 6th floor when a voice echoes. A soft murmur drifts through the void, praising his dominant firepower and wondering where such a talent came from. A figure slowly emerges. Stepping out from the mist is a young Taoist in traditional robes with a wooden sword on his back. He looks barely 17. His eyes are clear, and faint arcs of lightning dance around him. He introduces himself as Leo, a special observer from the Dragon Tiger Mountain. Leo studies Marcus with curiosity, noting that his mage class seems a bit tainted. He claims he could smell the demon aura from 3 floors away. Marcus narrows his eyes, fire flickering in his left hand. He warns the boy that anyone standing in his way will die. Leo chuckles and points upward, explaining that the 6th floor is an illusion forest. Without his Taoist arts, no amount of fire can clear it. He proposes a partnership to claim the Lord of Rings reward at the top, offering Marcus 70%. Marcus simply stares back coldly. Marcus declares that he wants the Lord of Rings for himself. Leo can only have the leftovers. Leo is stunned, then laughs at his sheer arrogance. He accepts the challenge to see whose blade is faster. Suddenly, a system prompt detects a high-quality ally candidate. A demon bond quest is triggered. Subdue Leo. Marcus lets out a faint, amused smile. To be honest, a Taoist servant sounds like a fine start. We move to the 6th floor, the illusion forest. The moment they step through the portal, the environment shifts drastically. The violent heat of the previous floors vanishes, replaced by a bone-chilling cold and a purple mist so thick it feels heavy. Massive trees tower above them, their twisted branches reaching out like ghostly hands. Faint, unsettling whispers echo through the air. Leo drops his playful act and warns that this mist preys on one's deepest fears. He pulls a yellow talisman from his robe. With a flick of his finger, the paper ignites, creating a circle of pale golden light that surrounds them both. This is a heart-clearing spell. It serves as a temporary shield against the illusions. Marcus walks ahead expressionless, his wind demon powers swirling to blow the mist away. Fear. Marcus scoffs at the idea. He tells himself that when he crawled back from hell, fear was the first thing to die on the road. Suddenly, the purple mist ahead churns violently. 2 familiar figures slowly emerge, asking Marcus how he could have killed his own sister. His younger brother, Toby, stands there with a face stained by tears, his eyes filled with nothing but pure loathing and hatred. He screams that Marcus is a born demon lord. He tells Marcus he should have strangled him at birth. His father, Jacob, bathed in a golden earthen light, raises a heavy sword to strike him down. As the blade falls, Leo's expression shifts in alarm. He shouts that these are merely heart demon illusions. They aren't real, and Marcus mustn't be deceived. But Marcus simply stops. He stands perfectly still for a moment. Without a hint of hesitation, he unleashes a powerful demon skill. A pillar of dark red fire erupts, swirling with a sense of deep, ancient sorrow. The flames sweep outward, and the figures of Jacob and his wife, who looked so real just a second ago, begin to melt like snow under a scorching sun. They let out a piercing shriek before the very space around them seems to crack. The illusion is violently torn apart, and the mist finally begins to clear. The true culprits are revealed hiding behind the trees, a pack of 3-eyed, pitch-black illusion succubi. They are level 15 elites. Marcus burns them all to ash. Looking at the charred remains, Leo's eye twitches. He had expected a long, grueling battle of mental fortitude. Instead, Marcus completely ignored the rules of the game and simply burned the entire stage down. To be honest, it was a rather effective shortcut. He gains 450 experience points for the kill, and his level rises to 13. Leo remarks that his fire is far from ordinary. Leo watches Marcus's back with a newfound gravity. He senses a will of pure destruction within those flames, something that doesn't feel human at all. Marcus looks back coldly, stating that if it can kill, it's a good tool. He then notes that Leo has yet to even draw his sword. Leo gives a dark chuckle and draws the wooden sword from his back. He decides that since Marcus is being so direct, he shouldn't hide his own skills either. He explains that on the 7th floor, the martial generals are immune to most fire damage, so he will take the lead. And so, the two of them push forward. Leo's Taoist arts are unpredictable, using golden light for defense and lightning to clear the path. He actually manages to keep pace with Marcus's brutal rhythm. Outside the Tower of Babel, the crowd gathered before the massive stone screen is erupting in excitement. The anonymous challenger has broken into the top 10. People point at the screen in disbelief, noticing the second light moving alongside him. They realize it's someone from the prestigious Dragon Tiger Mountain. It is Leo, one of the elite recruits. The crowd realizes they are watching a dream team, a top-tier mage and a top-tier Taoist working in perfect, deadly harmony. With a top-tier Taoist in the mix, it seems they are about to turn the entire city upside down. We move now to the 9th floor, the final gateway to the summit. The creature blocking their path is no longer a common monster, but a massive ancient giant radiating a chilling aura of death. This level 18 boss grips a colossal axe forged from countless spinal columns. With every step he takes, the very ground beneath them begins to tremble. Leo warns Marcus that this big guy has incredibly high physical and fire resistance, making a direct clash unwise. He suggests using a binding formation instead. He plans to lock the giant down so Marcus can find an opening to extinguish its soul fire. But Marcus simply steps forward, telling him it won't be necessary. He presses his left hand firmly against his chest, where the core of his S-rank class is pulsing wildly. He prepares to unleash a specialized gravity collapse. Marcus releases the mutated power he reclaimed earlier, and suddenly, the gravity within a 100-meter radius intensifies tenfold. The ancient giant, just about to swing its axe, lets out an ear-piercing crack from its knees. Its massive frame is forced into a kneeling position before Marcus. Marcus glances at Leo and asks to borrow his strength. Leo understands instantly, pointing his fingers to the heavens and calling down the thunder. A massive bolt of golden lightning follows the gravitational pull, striking the giant's skull with pinpoint precision and ending the battle. He gains 5,000 experience points for the kill. A notification chimes. He has met the requirements to unlock 20% of his fire demon potential. He acquires the demon domain skill, which boosts all his attributes by 50% while inflicting a state of pure terror upon his enemies. Marcus feels the dark magic within him undergoing another qualitative change. He looks up at the stairs leading to the 10th floor, his goal finally in sight. He is determined to become the Lord of the Realm. As he strides up the stairs, Leo watches his back and sheathes his wooden sword, whispering to himself. He realizes Marcus isn't just a mage. He is a walking demon among men. He wonders what kind of monster Marcus's family has actually unleashed upon the world. On the 10th floor, there are no monsters to be found. There is only a void of starlight, and at its center, a pulsating sphere glowing with a soft, white light. This is the heart of the realm. But just as Marcus steps onto the final platform, he realizes someone is already there, waiting in the silence. The figure wears elegant, deep purple battle gear, with long hair draped over his shoulders. He idly toys with a translucent gemstone in his hand. His presence is restrained, yet it gives Marcus a sense of overwhelming pressure. It is like standing on the edge of a vast, bottomless abyss. Leo leans in and whispers a warning with unprecedented seriousness. This is Silas, a level 20 elite from the prestigious Moore family. Known as the Thunderlord, Silas is a top-tier veteran who waited an entire year specifically for this realm seed, possessing enough power to sweep this entire space. Silas raises his head, his eyes flickering with traces of lightning as he coldly sweeps his gaze over the two, finally settling on Marcus. He remarks that while an anonymous player reaching this point shows some skill, a divine artifact like the realm seed is not for a nobody to touch. Marcus counters coldly, stating that on this platform, the prize belongs to whoever is fastest, as he slowly opens his right hand. Faint green hellfire begins to dance at his fingertips. Silas snorts in disdain, and suddenly, the lightning around his body explodes with violence. With a cold huff, Silas unleashes his fury as the surrounding lightning erupts into a technique known as the Thousand-Chime Thunderstorm. The entire starry void is instantly filled with blinding bolts, condensing into the shapes of birds that emit a sharp, deafening roar. They rain down toward Marcus like a deluge. Leo lets out a low shout, activating his golden light curse to shield them both. He manages to block the first wave of the impact, but the lightning is so domineering that Leo's golden shield begins to crack instantly. Leo warns that the level suppression is too high and he can't hold for long. Marcus simply replies that it's enough, moving like a ghost. His speed reaches its limit, turning his silhouette into a string of afterimages amidst the storm as he activates his gravity reversal. The lightning that was supposed to strike downward is suddenly pulled by gravity, curving in a strange arc back towards Silas himself. The violent lightning elements are suppressed, replaced by a demonic pressure so intense it makes the very soul tremble in fear. A notification detects strong hostility, triggering his fire demon traits. Marcus prepares to unleash a purifying sea of demonic flames. He stops holding back, forcibly merging the golden magic of his Titan core with the demonic fire in his left hand, shouting for Silas to get lost. He soars into the air, his right hand forming a claw that seems to swallow the surrounding light with a force capable of crushing anything. He strikes hard at Silas, who screams in desperation, condensing his lightning into a thick, heavy set of Thunder God armor. To Leo's absolute horror, Marcus's hand actually tears through the divine armor by sheer force, slamming heavily into Silas's chest. With a deafening explosion, Silas is sent flying like a broken kite, propelled by the terrifying force of the blast. He is blown straight off the edge of the 10th floor, falling away from the summit and into the bottomless abyss of mist below. Leo stares in disbelief, asking if Marcus is actually some ancient evil god reborn, but Marcus ignores him and walks steadily toward the pedestal. His left hand firmly grips the realm seed, and a notification confirms he has obtained the mythical grade item, a realm seed sprout. The system detects his demon space and begins a fusion, unlocking the demon palace's primary form, where he can recruit followers to build his supreme power. As the seed enters his body, Marcus feels a vast expanse of black soil appearing deep within his soul, and at the very end of that land, A dark, majestic structure begins to rise from the depths of his consciousness. It is the foundation of his new empire, a place where his word will be absolute law. Outside, the city is in an uproar as people realize someone actually reached the summit, and word spreads that the genius Silas has been defeated. While the entire city frantically searches for this mysterious, anonymous player, Marcus uses the chaos of the descent to slip away unnoticed. He quietly leaves the Babel Tower and reappears in a remote, secluded forest on the outskirts of the city with Leo by his side. Leo asks what the plan is, warning that Silas's family are true giants of the city who will surely go mad now that their prodigy is ruined. Marcus watches the demonic aura swirling in his palm, his eyes cold as he remarks that if they want to go mad, he'll give them a reason. He notes that his demon palace is still missing a few gatekeepers, just as a new quest triggers to recruit his first divine general. Marcus looks at Leo with a playful, enigmatic smile, asking the young priest if he would like to witness a true miracle. Under the silver moonlight of the forest, Leo looks at Marcus's serious expression and feels a sudden, sharp chill run down his spine. As a descendant of the Dragon Tiger Mountain, he was raised to exorcise demons, yet here is Marcus inviting him to witness something divine. The demonic energy radiating from Marcus is almost overwhelming, leading Leo to nervously ask if this miracle involves him becoming a sacrifice. Leo gives a forced laugh while gripping his wooden sword tightly, but Marcus remains silent, slowly raising his left hand toward the sky. The realm seed within him suddenly erupts with a dark purple glow, and we see the very fabric of reality begin to shift and expand. The ground doesn't crack, but Leo feels a terrifying spatial fluctuation wrap around them both with a low, rumbling thunder. The forest vanishes instantly, replaced by a desolate, silent land of black soil that stretches as far as the eye can see. The familiar world vanishes, replaced by a desolate, silent land of black soil that stretches as far as the eye can see. In the distance, a pitch-black palace rises like a mountain through the mist, radiating an aura of ancient, desolate power. 8 massive stone statues bow their heads above the palace, their sheer presence making Leo, our level 15 priest, feel weak in the knees. He stammers in disbelief, realizing this isn't just an independent space, but a growing divine realm, a discovery that leaves him speechless. As a prodigy, he knows that even level 50 players rarely manifest their own realm, yet Marcus has one at level 14. It is a complete, miraculous relic, and as Marcus turns around, his black cloak flutters violently against the backdrop of the demon palace. In this moment, Marcus looks like the only true reality in this world, standing before a palace that defies all known laws. He explains that while worldly magic is bound by natural laws, those who serve his palace will receive power far beyond those limits. With a flick of his finger, Marcus sends a spark of pure elemental fire toward Leo, a seed of the sovereign's own origin. It promises to double the power of Leo's lightning, provided he agrees to guard this palace and stand against 1,000,000 tribes. Leo stares at the flickering spark of destruction and swallows hard, knowing this is the moment his entire destiny changes. Compared to this dark majesty, the powerful families and even his own Dragon Tiger Mountain suddenly seem quite small. He decides to risk it all, realizing that his life at the temple was nothing compared to the path now laid before him. A notification confirms the recruitment. The Demon Palace's first form is unlocked, and Leo receives a unique title, the Thunderfire Judge. Under the Sovereign's blessing, Leo's level increases instantly, granting him a passive skill that adds true damage to his every strike. A crimson light envelopes the young priest, and we see his aura surge from level 15 to 16 in a single heartbeat. Even his wooden sword is now wreathed in dark red demonic flames, a sight that leaves him swearing in pure, ecstatic shock. He swings the blade, and a bolt of thunderous fire blasts a deep crater into the black soil, proving his new strength is very real. Marcus turns his gaze back toward the horizon, his eyes cold as he declares it is time to return home and collect a debt. His father thinks a simple betrayal ended things, but Marcus is ready to return and burn their entire world to the ground. The news that Marcus, the anonymous challenger, defeated Leo with a single strike in the Babel Tower has completely exploded. In the main hall of the Miller family, the patriarch, Jacob Miller, looks on with a face so dark it could drip ink. He stares at his son lying on a special care bed, ribs shattered and spirit damaged, and lets out a roar of pure fury. The sound is enough to make the chandeliers tremble. He demands a full investigation into this anonymous attacker, declaring that in River City, no one dares touch his son. Standing nearby, trembling with fear, Marcus's uncle, Silas, suddenly speaks up. He claims to have a lead on a highly suspicious individual among those who entered the tower that day. When asked who, Silas reveals the name of his own rebellious nephew, Marcus. His eyes are filled with a poisonous malice as he speaks of the boy who supposedly left the family. He claims Marcus killed his own cousin and stole an S-rank class, possessing some sort of extremely wicked power. To be honest, Silas is quite desperate to shift the blame. He argues that if anyone has the capability to severely wound Leo, Marcus is undoubtedly the prime suspect, given the strange methods he now employs. Jacob Miller turns his head and glares at Silas, questioning if he truly means the same Marcus who was once dismissed as a useless, low-level mage. Silas grits his teeth, insisting the boy is a monster. He believes Marcus is still in the city and offers to sacrifice everything the family owns to help Jacob lock down the gates. The Miller patriarch suddenly smashes the mahogany table beside him. He is ready to use his influence to seal the city and hunt the boy down like an animal. He wants Marcus to learn that the very sky over River City belongs to the Millers. However, neither Jacob nor Silas realize that the situation is already shifting beneath their feet. While they plot their capture, mysterious figures in black robes have quietly appeared in every corner of the city, their sleeves embroidered with the crest of a dragon's head. We see that Marcus's revenge is no longer a solitary journey. These figures are the vanguard of the Demon Palace, the silent soldiers of a rising sovereign. Atop a dilapidated warehouse in the north, Marcus watches the Miller family patrol cars whistling past below, a cruel, cold smile playing on his lips. His first target is the family's medicine warehouse. He intends to let the family rot from its very foundations, starting right here in the northern suburbs of River City. We find ourselves at a heavily guarded, modern cold chain warehouse. This is one of the family's lifelines, the central hub for their pharmaceutical distribution. The family's status as one of the Big Five rests on their monopoly over nearly 30% of the city's low-level recovery potions and spiritual medicines. Under a steady midnight drizzle, dozens of hired bodyguards patrol the perimeter. Most of these men are between level 15 and 20, formidable, or so they think. The lead guard barks at his men to stay sharp, but just as he reaches for a cigarette, the faint, chilling sound of a bell echoes through the darkness. The sound is crisp, yet carries a frequency that makes one's skin crawl. He calls out into the shadows, where a figure in deep black is waiting. A figure in a green robe slowly emerges from the shadows. It is Silas. In his hand, a wooden sword is wrapped in dark red patterns, and his face wears that same trademark, mocking smile. He casually asks the group for a light, which, naturally, the guards take as a death wish. They draw their weapons instantly, but before they can even take a single step forward, the air around them collapses without any warning. It is a gravitational collapse, an irresistible, crushing pressure descending from directly above their heads. Every single bodyguard, including their level 22 captain, is forced to their knees. The hard concrete floor beneath them begins to spiderweb with deep, jagged cracks. We hear the steady rhythm of footsteps as Marcus walks up from behind Silas. His black trench coat remains perfectly dry despite the rain, and he looks at the warehouse doors with cold indifference. To be honest, he looks at the building as if he were staring at a tomb. The lead captain's eyes widen in sheer terror as he stammers out Marcus's name. Marcus remarks that if the patriarch wants to be the medicine king of the city, he will help him become a king of ruins instead. He steps to the gate and raises his right hand. He invokes the hell's breath of the fire demon. This isn't ordinary fire. It's a dark red demonic flame infused with the very essence of destruction. Like a roaring fire dragon, the blast instantly pierces through the reinforced warehouse doors. The extreme heat is so intense that the metal plates begin to vaporize on contact. The fire dragon snakes deep into the interior, greedily devouring the priceless herbs and medicines stored within. The family's fortune is turning to ash before their eyes. Marcus turns to Silas with a nod. Silas gives a dark, knowing chuckle and points his sword toward the sky, declaring a judgment of thunder and fire upon those who have lost their way. Dark red lightning bolts scream down along the gravitational field, incinerating the struggling guards into charred remains. It is a swift and brutal conclusion. Just then, Marcus senses something and glances toward the distant darkness, a playful smirk touching his lips. It seems the Miller family's allies have arrived rather quickly. 3 minutes later, several black SUVs bearing the crest of the Miller's secondary branch screech to a halt. An elder named Arthur steps out with a dozen elite warriors. Arthur looks at the warehouse, which has already been transformed into a sea of fire, and his expression becomes dangerously dark. This was not part of the plan. He glares at Marcus, demanding to know where he gets the audacity to act this way. He releases the full pressure of a level 28 master, trying to intimidate the boy. He accuses Marcus of wounding young masters and burning allied property, asking if Marcus truly thinks no one in this city can stop him. Marcus simply stretches his hand. Sparks dance in his palm as he reminds Arthur that when he was shattering ribs earlier, the old man wasn't nearly this brave. The arrogance in Marcus's voice is palpable. Enraged, Arthur orders his men to deploy the thunder-snaring array. He wants Marcus captured alive so he can extract his soul and forge it into a weapon. The elites quickly fan out, their staves and long swords connecting to form a web of crackling blue electricity. They move with the precision of practiced killers. The staves and long swords connect into a vast web of blue lightning, and as the crackling net closes in, Marcus simply utters 2 words with utter disdain. He invokes his domain. The holy sovereign domain expands once more, and the violent thunder, upon touching its edge, reacts as if it has encountered its natural enemy. The lightning instantly dissolves into a gentle, harmless shimmer. Marcus tells Silas to handle the old man while he takes care of the rest, a request Silas accepts with a grin. Silas lets out a great shout, his footsteps echoing with the chime of wind bells as he charges toward Arthur with the combined fury of thunder and fire. Meanwhile, Marcus slowly spreads his arms, calling upon the fire demon's silent heart. Countless dark red fireballs begin to condense out of thin air in the night sky. With deafening sonic booms, these demonic meteors rain down upon the Miller family elites. That night, the fire in the northern suburbs illuminates half the city. The spectacle effectively tears away the last shred of dignity from the Miller and Jacob families. The warehouse has been transformed into a literal purgatory on Earth. The dark red demonic flames are so hot they vaporize the falling rain midair, creating a haunting mixture of white steam and thick, suffocating black smoke. It is a scene of pure terror. Arthur screams hysterically for his men to deploy the thunder-snaring array, desperate to regain control of the situation. The 12 elites he brought are all lightning element mages and warriors above level 20. They fan out in a circle, their weapons dancing in a frantic, synchronized rhythm. Thick bolts of blue lightning interweave in the air, forming a massive, pulsing cage of electricity designed to forcibly lock Marcus in place. Arthur boasts that even a level 30 master would lose their skin under this array, ordering Marcus to get on his knees like the clown he thinks he is. Marcus stands at the center of the array, his expression completely unchanged. To be honest, he doesn't even bother to activate a defensive skill. He simply allows the dense currents to lash against his holy sovereign domain. They produce a piercing sizzle, yet they fail to move him even a fraction of an inch. Marcus coldly remarks that the old ghost is testing Silas's limits and shaming their reputation. Silas laughs, eager to show off the true power of a Thunderfire judge. Silas moves like a bolt of lightning himself. He was already a chosen Taoist, but now, empowered by the Holy Sovereign's grace, his movements leave behind heavy afterimages. With a cry of heart-burning blast, Silas slams his wooden sword into the ground. A shockwave of demonic fire and Taoist thunder sweeps outward in a wide arc. The supposedly indestructible thunder-snaring array meets this higher-dimensional energy and, quite naturally, begins to fall apart instantly. It is like a hot knife through butter as a massive breach is torn through the formation. The energy backlash is immediate and devastating for the casters. 3 Miller family mages responsible for maintaining the array's foundation cough up blood simultaneously, their bodies sent flying backward by the sheer force of the collapse. Arthur stares in disbelief, wondering what strange energy this is and how Taoist arts could possibly contain such demonic malice. He had never seen anything so unnatural. Despite its strange nature, the power is terrifyingly immense. Marcus decides it's time to send them on their way, activating Ghostly Windwalk as his body instantly vanishes. He disappears from the spot, leaving behind only a distorted path in the air caused by intense heat. Realizing the danger, the guards shout to protect the Elder. 2 level 25 Thunder Warriors react with lightning speed, crossing their shields in front of Arthur. Lightning flows across the metal, transforming into a massive electric barrier. Then comes the Hell's Breath. Marcus's figure abruptly reappears directly in front of the Thunder Shield, his left hand glowing with a dark, concentrated energy. The dark red demonic fire is no longer a spreading flame, but has been compressed into a singular, piercing line of fire that is almost pitch black. With a sharpness that could penetrate anything, it strikes the center of the shield. A sharp crack echoes. The shield, built to withstand heavy bombardment, begins to fail. The moment it touches the fire line, the center of the shield simply melts away into a large hole. The beam continues forward without losing any momentum. It pierces through the chests of the 2 warriors before slamming violently into Arthur's protective mana. A massive explosion thunders through the night sky. The clothes on half of Arthur's body are instantly incinerated. He is sent flying back a dozen meters in a pathetic state, crashing into a scrapped SUV. His face is a mask of pure horror as he realizes Marcus has reached such a level. To him, it seems impossible for a level 14 to possess such power. But as Marcus slowly lowers his hand, we see that to an ant, miracles will always seem impossible. Behind him, the heavy pillars of the warehouse finally collapse. A notification chimes. The Miller ambush squad is defeated, granting 5,000 demon points. His fire demon synchronization reaches 30%, unlocking a new form. He has gained the wings of the demon, allowing for short-term flight and high-speed aerial combat. Seeing the old man is still alive, Marcus decides to send a message. He walks to the edge of the ruins and looks down at the crumpled Arthur. There is no mercy in his eyes as he tells him to inform the family heads of his return. Marcus declares he will be waiting right here in the city, and he will kill every person they send. Next time, he will personally visit their mansion to take their heads. With a simple get out, Marcus waves his hand. A gentle, yet domineering gravitational force flings Arthur hundreds of meters away into the distance. Silas sheaths his wooden sword and approaches, feeling a bit confused as to why Marcus would let the old man live when killing him would be so easy. Marcus looks toward the brightly lit skyscrapers in the city center. He explains that while killing is easy, a dead man cannot deliver the gift of fear. He intends to make the Miller and Jacob families spend every waking moment of their remaining lives in a state of absolute, suffocating terror. He wants them to live every second in the shadow of their family's destruction. Next, we head to the South Pier, where the Millers are preparing their final shipment. Marcus vanishes into the mist, followed by a grinning Silas. That night, the news brought back by the survivors hit the city's elite like a nuclear shockwave. The tranquility of the upper class was shattered. Everyone realized that the young man, once dismissed as a useless outcast, had become something else entirely. He had transformed into an unstoppable demon, opening his jaws from the city's shadows. We move now to the South Pier late at night. A cool sea breeze carries the scent of river water. Over a dozen massive cargo ships are moored at the shore, waiting for their orders. The largest among them, the City Pilot, spews black smoke as it prepares to transport the Miller family's accumulated wealth, the last of their core resources. This shipment includes high-grade enhancement stones and crystals, all destined for the capital. This is the Miller family's final bargaining chip. If these goods reach the capital, they can buy the protection of a superfamily and escape this mess. To be honest, it was their only hope left. The guards are ordered to check their gear. The family head has declared that not even a fly should get near the pier tonight. It's a high-stakes lockdown. 200 professionals stand ready, including Miller private soldiers and elites sent by Jacob. In the center of the crowd stands a very grim-faced man. This is David Miller, leaning on a heavy, earth-colored staff. Beside him stands Jacob's second-in-command, a man known as the Thunder Hand, Mike. Mike cracks his neck with a sound like fireworks, asking David if the boy really dares to show up. He plans to turn this pier into a graveyard. Just as the words leave his mouth, a burst of dark red fire erupts without warning on the calm water. The silence of the night is officially over. A massive wave surges as a small boat, propelled by the explosion, shoots through the thick mist like an arrow toward the pier. The professionals instantly draw their weapons, and the glow of various skills lights up the night sky. They realize their guest has finally arrived. As the boat shatters, Marcus's slender but upright figure soars into the air, and this is where we see something truly remarkable. Behind him, a pair of illusory wings woven from dark red flames and pale green cyclones unfolds. He has manifested the wings of the demon. David's pupils shrink in shock. Before level 30, aerial combat is supposed to be impossible unless one has a specific flight-based class. Marcus hovers high in the sky, looking down at the dense crowd below. He asks David if he likes this little surprise he's brought along. He opens his left hand, and between his fingers, a pitch-black gravity sphere begins to condense. He calls it the gravitational black star. Marcus hurls the sphere downward with a violent motion. The guards scream to activate their shields, but the black orb doesn't explode upon impact. Instead, it generates a terrifying gravitational pull. Nearby shipping containers, rubble, and even the lower-level professionals are instantly caught in its wake. They are dragged helplessly toward the center as the sound of snapping bones and screams fill the air. Dozens of Miller guards find themselves trapped. In an instant, the horrific pressure twists their bodies into a gruesome pulp. It is a sight that would make even a seasoned soldier turn away. David Miller roars in fury, calling Marcus a little beast and swearing to see him dead. He lunges forward with everything he has. Marcus shifts slightly, avoiding the brunt of the attack with ease. Meanwhile, Silas emerges from the shadows like a ghost, ready to play his part. The wooden sword in Silas's hand has undergone a metamorphosis, crackling with dark red lightning and fire that forms a massive, crescent-shaped arc. The blazing blade clashes against Mike's giant axe in midair with a deafening boom. The resulting shockwave sends nearby containers flying like toys. Mike, a level 30 berserker, is actually forced back several steps, his grip shattered. To be honest, this was not part of his plan. He realizes with a mix of shock and rage that Silas's energy is actively suppressing his own. Meanwhile, Marcus has already landed on the City Pilot. David screams for him to stop, waving his staff like a madman. Countless sharp stone pillars erupt from the deck, attempting to pin Marcus down. Marcus doesn't even bother to look back. He simply stomps his foot, activating the echo of the Earth Demon, a power evolved from devouring the mountain spirits. The mutated earth elements immediately backfire on David. The rising stone pillars soften instantly, turning into ropes of glowing, molten lava. These fiery restraints bind David tightly to the spot. Marcus turns his head, noting that the defense David was so proud of is actually a joke. The fire reflected in Marcus's eyes bathes the entire freighter in a crimson glow. He declares that the Millers are unworthy of these resources. He places his left hand on the center of the deck. His demonic power begins to surge through the hull, claiming everything the family owns. The dark energy spreads across the massive vessel in seconds. A system notification chimes. Core Miller resources plundered, 15,000 demon points gained. The containment function is triggered, and the cargo is moved to his warehouse. Then, with an earth-shattering roar of tearing metal, the entire 10,000-ton freighter vanishes before everyone's eyes, swallowed by a pitch-black vortex behind Marcus. And just like that, it was gone. David stares at the empty water where his future used to be. He coughs up a mouthful of blood and collapses, his spirit completely broken. The Miller family is finished. Marcus stands in the rain, looking coldly at the wreckage of the pier, knowing it is time to collect the remaining debts from the Meng family. The fires at the pier begin to fade, but the storm Marcus has unleashed on the city is only just reaching its peak, and we are about to see how far it spreads. With the disappearance of the massive freighter into thin air, the last bit of prestige the Millers held as one of the 5 great families has completely collapsed. Meanwhile, in the heart of the city, an unprecedented atmosphere of dread hangs over the Meng family's Thunder Manor, a fortress-like estate built of white wood. An entire freighter and hundreds of professionals have simply vanished. Arthur Meng sits at the head of the table, trying to process this impossible news. His usually ruddy face is now as white as paper. He looks at his brother, Julian, who has returned in a pathetic state, missing an entire arm. Julian's hand trembles as he cracks the mahogany table, telling his brother that Marcus is not right, that the Taoist by his side uses a strangely eerie energy. He explains that Marcus didn't even have to strike personally. He crippled their men using only a gravity field. Julian's eyes are filled with the lingering fear of a survivor. Suddenly, a family disciple rushes into the hall, practically crawling in his haste. His voice is shrill with panic as he delivers a terrifying report. He screams that someone has delivered a funeral bell to the front gate. Arthur stands up abruptly, his body blurring as he rushes to the entrance of the manor. We see that the luxurious white jade pillars at the gate have been shattered. A massive bronze bell, 3 people tall, sits firmly beneath the family plaque. Carved into the bronze with dark red demonic flames are 3 large words, Arthur Meng. It was a gift, though certainly not the kind one hopes to receive. As the bell's echo lingers, a voice as cold as ice resonates from the surrounding mist. It asks the head of the Meng family if he likes his funeral bell. The voice reminds him that David Miller has already been sent on his way. Arthur roars, calling the intruder a coward who hides in the shadows. He demands the beast show itself, and as if on cue, the atmosphere shifts, signaling that the confrontation everyone feared has finally arrived. Carrying the dual-colored aura of a demon, Marcus slowly descends from a vortex, his toes lightly touching the top of the bronze bell. His black coat flutters wildly in the wind. By this point, Marcus has reached level 16 after harvesting the experience from the pier. Behind him, Silas descends as well, looking quite pleased with himself. Silas hovers in midair with his lightning-wrapped wooden sword, joking that the manor's feng shui is terrible and far too gloomy. To be honest, he was enjoying the drama. He tells Arthur that his master has come personally to help clear the air. Arthur, incensed that a mere level 16 warlock would speak so boldly, laughs in pure rage. With a violent wave of his right hand, he prepares to strike. The time for talk, it seems, has officially come to an end. Arthur doesn't even hesitate, calling down a thunderous strike with the weight of heaven itself. Marcus simply stands his ground, preparing to reverse gravity and bring all things to one. He raises his left hand toward the sky, and a pitch-black gravity well begins to take shape just above his palm. As the violent lightning bolts scream within 10 meters of his body, they are suddenly caught by an invisible force, twisted and compressed until every last spark is swallowed by the black hole. It is a sight that defies logic, really. Arthur is completely stunned by this display. As a Thunder Lord, his greatest strength is his explosive power, but right now, he feels as though he is throwing a heavy punch directly into an endless, silent abyss. Behind Marcus, the fire demon's rage manifests as a massive palm made of molten lava, which slams down with the weight of a mountain. The lightning shield Arthur desperately raises shatters the moment it touches that demonic hand, and the force of the impact pins him directly into the earth. The manor's exquisite flooring cracks in a radial pattern as dust clouds billow upward. Marcus receives a notification. He has heavily wounded a level 32 Lord-class professional. He gains 12,000 experience points and 5,000 demon points. Seeing this, Arthur's brother, Julian, lunges toward Marcus, but Silas is there to intercept him. Silas gives a dark chuckle, his wooden sword striking out like a spirit snake. Lightning and fire erupt in all directions as dark red chains of soul-binding energy instantly trap Julian. Silas follows up with a strike of demonic fire. As the dust clears, we see Arthur lying pathetically in the center of a crater. His chest is sunken from the impact, and he stares at Marcus with utter disbelief, gasping out a question about what class he truly awakened, because this is certainly no mere warlock. Marcus lands at the edge of the pit, his left hand already condensing a line of hellfire capable of ending everything. However, just as Marcus prepares to wipe the Meng family from existence, a faint but incredibly ancient aura suddenly awakens from the forbidden grounds behind the manor. A voice tells the young man to show mercy where it is due, declaring that it is not yet Marcus's place to decide the Meng family's fate. The old voice echoes across the grounds, accompanied by a relentless tide of water attribute magic that washes over the area like a great wave. Marcus dispels his fire and looks toward the back mountain, a hint of excitement touching his lips. It seems the old monster has finally decided to show his face. He remarks that his demon hall was missing a decent whetstone to sharpen his blade. Suddenly, a system alert detects a powerhouse above level 35. A demon challenge mission is triggered. Survive for 10 minutes against this master or force them to retreat. The reward will unlock the next stage of his power. We see the 4 great demons begin to stir, specifically the water demon, Basha, who controls the source of all rivers. As that ancient voice fades, the entire manor grounds begin to tremble, and the lake behind the mountain rises without a breeze. Massive waves coalesce into a 100-meter-long transparent tiger, roaring as it lunges directly at Marcus. Facing a master of the water element, Marcus beats his wings and soars backward, his fiery pinions leaving a dark red trail across the sky. The water dragon slams into his bronze defense, and the once indestructible barrier is instantly corroded by the rushing currents, which is quite a surprise. The defense softens and dissolves into a useless puddle. Then, a withered figure appears, treading upon the waves. This man's hair and beard are completely white, and he wears a deep blue robe. His skin looks like old tree bark that has been soaked in water for centuries, wrinkled, yet radiating a strange, everlasting vitality. This is the ancestor of the family, Silas Meng, a level 38 Great Sun Sage. To be honest, his presence changes everything. "Ancestor, save me," Arthur Meng cries out, clutching at this arrival like a drowning man reaching for a straw. His scream is truly pathetic. Silas Meng ignores the desperate man entirely, fixing his cloudy, yet piercing eyes on Marcus. He marvels that one so young has mastered 4 distinct elemental sources: fire, wind, neutral, and earth. He suggests that Marcus's hidden master must have a truly massive appetite to treat this entire city as a mere testing ground. "Master," Marcus lets out a cold laugh as his holy lord domain expands once more. He declares that in all the heavens, no one is worthy of being his teacher. If the old man wants to save this family, he can simply die alongside them. Invoking the fire demon's Hellfire Lotus, Marcus presses his right hand toward the earth. Instantly, the manor grounds crack open as countless dark red lotuses bloom from the depths. These aren't simple fireballs. Each flower contains the power of extreme, compressed destruction. "Arrogance," Silas Ming barks, tapping his blue gold staff. He invokes his ocean domain, a realm where all things are silenced and stilled. The domain begins to drain all heat from the air. Even the lightning and fire chains in the distance are suppressed, shrinking under the weight of the water. Suddenly, a system alert chimes. Extreme water suppression detected. The Holy Lord's devouring instinct awakens, triggering a resonance with the water demon, Basha. The resonance intensifies as the system asks a pivotal question. It offers a choice that could turn the tide of this entire battle. It asks if he will sacrifice 10,000 demon points to forcibly seize control of the enemy's water element. Sacrifice, Marcus mutters, a ruthless glint in his eyes. The suppressed fire wings suddenly shatter of their own accord. Marcus's aura plummets instantly, making him appear, for a moment, like a completely ordinary man. Has he given up like a commoner? Silas shook his head, a flicker of regret in his eyes. To him, Marcus was simply too young. Die then. With a shout of ocean burial, massive amounts of seawater surged from the void, completely enveloping Marcus and forming a giant, spherical water prison. Inside the prison, the pressure spiked enough to crush steel into fragments. However, just as Silas turned to go and save Arthur, a faint, mocking chuckle echoed from the center of the sphere. "Old man, thanks for the water." Suddenly, the once azure blue water prison turned pitch black in an instant. Deep blue demonic patterns surfaced across Marcus's skin, and his eyes transformed into the haunting blue of the deep sea. The power of the water demon, Basha, was unlocked, a force far more ancient, pure, and overbearing than Silas's own magic. This power erupted from Marcus, and the lethal water prison now acted like an obedient slave. It swirled around Marcus's fingertips, transforming into a massive black water spear that pierced the heavens. How is this possible? Aren't you a fire mage? Silas nearly dropped his staff in shock. He had studied water magic for 60 years and had never seen such terrifying elemental suppression. Before this demon, Silas's so-called ocean power was little more than bathwater. Marcus waved his hand, and the black water spear instantly tore through the void. Silas desperately cast his strongest defenses, layering water curtains in front of him, but they were like wet paper before the black spear. With a sickening thud, the spear pierced Silas's shoulder and pinned him ruthlessly to the stone cliff of the back mountain. A system notification confirmed the seizure of all water elements. The water demon, Basha, was fully unlocked, granting Marcus the passive ability, all rivers reach the sea. Now, all water attacks were useless against him. Instead, they would be converted into mana. The entire field fell silent. A level 38 ancestor, in his own specialty, had been utterly crushed by a level 16 youth. Marcus landed before Arthur, fire igniting in his left hand while water flowed in his right. Does the Meng family have anything else to say? Arthur looked at the boy, a fusion of fire and water, part god and part demon. He collapsed into a pool of blood, finally realizing he hadn't provoked a mere outcast, but a terrifying existence that could overturn the world. Marcus, you win, Arthur whispered, his voice hoarse as he closed his eyes. But this wasn't the end of a tyranny. It was only the beginning. Marcus flicked his hand, and demonic fire incinerated the manor. That night, the Ming family fell, and the legend began. We see Marcus standing amidst the dancing flames and rushing torrents, his eyes fixed on the distant horizon where the true seat of the empire's power resided. This was the capital, home to the high-ranking officials who had conspired to strip him of his future. He knew that once he gathered the strength of all 8 demons, every god and monster in existence would be forced to bow before him. A new system prompt appeared. His next destination was the national examination, where he would suppress the realm's finest prodigies and seize the Sky Thunder Core. The hunt for the Thunder Demon had officially begun.